From the garage to the grid, Acceleration Kart Racing is your one-stop shop for karting. Engines, parts, safety gear, tools, and more from the brands you trust. Everything you need for race day starts at shopakr.com. Are you ready to get behind the wheel? From Formula One to NASCAR and IndyCar, all the pros start here. For more information, check us out online at mcckarting.com or call us and go racing today.
comes to innovation on the track, Odenthal Racing Products leads the pack. From the highly popular EasyGP camera mounts to our tough case to GoPro case, racers everywhere trust ORP for strength, reliability, and precision. We're proud to be the #1 engine mount manufacturer in the USA. And with our new Easy Bumper Retainer System, you won't get caught out with a failed bumper bolt again. Odenthal Racing Products. Lead or get left behind.
Paulie Massimino wins the Wisconsin Grand Prix! James Overbeck on start number 2 gets win #1 in OKN Stars!
On track or off, Brandon Jarsekrak Racing delivers elite performance. Led by 4-time Pro National Champion Brandon Jarsekrak, our team masters driver coaching, data-driven analysis, and mechanical precision at every national event. Contact us today at BrandonJarsekrakracing.com.
Karting isn't just speed. It's control, precision, freedom. At Atlanta Motorsports Park, Kart Freedom isn't just a team. It's where drivers are made.
You know, I'm really starting to like this go-karting thing.
Yeah, me too. Oh my gosh, can I show you this cute dress I just got?
Yes, of course. Oh my goodness, it's so cute.
I just love shopping.
I love shopping too.
Oh my gosh.
Wait, did you guys say you like shopping?
Of
Yeah.
course.
Well, dude, I have the perfect place to do that at. ShopPayCara.com. At ShopPayCara.com, you can get free shipping on orders $200 or more. You can get anything you want, like MXC rims, gloves, rib vests, shoes, anything that you need, all at ShopPayCara.com.
Who is he talking to?
No idea.
But we're gonna have to check it out. Sounds like a great deal.
Sure does.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Motorsport.
Cut. You all right, man? You sound way off.
What?
I don't know, you sound like you're asleep still. Is the age finally getting to you? You're only how old, 42?
Dude, I'm 27. I'm not even 3 years older than you.
Well, that's pretty old. Well, that's 3 years away from Masters, dude. You need a little pick-me-up. Try a Perico. It's a healthy energy drink alternative.
Do you walk around with these in your pockets?
I actually do. Always two, one for me and clearly one for you.
Whatever. Not that old, dude.
Did it help, though?
Yeah.
Pericazo. And you are that old.
From the garage to the grid, Acceleration Kart Racing is your one-stop shop for karting. Engines, parts, safety gear, tools, and more from the brands you trust. Everything you need for race day starts at shopakr.com.
Let's go race.
Come on, man.
Welcome to the future of kart race preparation, Kart Sim Pro North America. Featuring laser-scanned North American kart circuits and precision-tuned kart physics developed using real telemetry, dyno and tyre data, Kart Sim Pro North America delivers the most advanced and realistic kart simulation experience available today. Whether you're training for race day, refining your lines, or shaving tenths off your personal best, Kart Sim Pro gives you pro-level insight without leaving your home. Trusted by world champions, coaches, and karting enthusiasts alike, this is where virtual practice translates into real-world performance. Experience the thrill, the challenge, and the edge. Kart Sim Pro North America. Use code CHASER20 to get 20% off today.
Hi, I'm Jackson with Alpha Race Hub. Alpha is an all-in-one motorsports software solution that can solve all the software problems you need for your track, facility, or series. Alpha can cover all your software bases, from online registration, digital e-waivers, a proprietary timing and scoring software, incident management, automated points tabulation, tire and barcode scanning. We even have our own mobile timing app and rental cart activity management software. If you're looking to consolidate your motorsports software solutions, reach out to us at alphatiming.co.uk.
Macron Motor Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's coverage of the final round of the Apex Midwest Karting Championship. We're happy to have you with us for this morning's action as we begin things off here from beautiful Quaker City. It's Motorsports Park hosting karting action here this weekend, ready to see who comes out on top when it comes to the battles for the championships. My name's Justin Prince. We joined alongside by one of my colleagues in just a little bit, Taylor Burris, going to deal with the power outage situation. But the drivers right now can definitely tell you one thing. They're focused on one thing, keeping the lights on for their chances to take home some hardware before they get to the big Apex show in October. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to today, especially with it being the championship run. 3 rounds in this series, but it's important to mention, if you look at the rule book, it is mentioned with Apex Karting Championships, and I quote, "We'll count a driver's best 2 of 3 events towards each regional championship." In our words, when you have some of the close battles like we do when it comes to the Briggs categories, expect there to be a little bit of drama depending on how the drop weeks go, to decide who actually comes out with the hardware by the end of this weekend. We'll start things off by talking about the current schedule of events as the Briggs Masters are on the racetrack right now. All Briggs categories will be on the circuit this morning, all the way through the heat races that take place until the middle of the 12 o'clock hour. The Masters, Micro, Senior, Mini, and Junior classes will all hit the racetrack in that particular order this morning as part of their qualifying efforts, where each of them will get 7 minutes on the racetrack apiece. That will actually continue for the race distances too today. There will be 7 minutes plus 2 laps for each of the classes for their heat races, a part of this format. Let's talk about how this is going to go for this battle for the championship in this class, though, for the Masters, because it's important to mention it's pretty close. Remember, Jamie Bradford, who is not in the conversation, not a part of the entry list coming into this weekend, had just about swept the opening round of the season in this series. However, since then, AJ Roderick has taken control. Roderick has kept himself up on speed to sweep last weekend, in last round, should say. Levi Wilbur's been very consistent, though. They have a 1-point difference without the drop coming into today. They look to be the 2 favorites, and it's going to be interesting where the drops take drivers, because Wilbur had 7th and a 5th in round 2 with Roderick's sweep. Roderick, though, remember the reason he got so close? He had no point finishes in the heat races in the opening round of the campaign for the Midwest. So, in our words, if Wilbur can take the speed as high as he can get here today, and better yet, they get to a spot where it comes down to the drop round, it could be pretty wide open on who actually gets this championship. Don't forget, there's a lot of good competitors here today in this respective class for the Briggs. For the Masters side today, Christopher Ashcraft has been pretty quick throughout the course of the season, 3rd in the point standings, but needs a good pickup and then some today. 105 distance coming in before the drop as one of the privateers. You also have Ethan Kino, who is up in the order right now, one of the Makinos, with Ethan also in the order today. That is a Roderick Racing Development entry. It's made its way onto the racetrack here today. That's 2nd in your qualifying. First 2.5 minutes so far here today. As things get all plotted and planned, keep in mind there's an hour or a few drivers that are local to the region that you can think about when they race in the Ohio and the Indiana areas. Shea Brian Williams, he's here again today, looking to have some good speed. You also throw a couple others that are looking to find their way to break through, or like Ryan Curtin, that's looked pretty solid in Steel Motorsports equipment in some appearances this year. The CKNA Summer Nats, after all, was about the top half of the field finish, 8th out of 19 competitors over in Cincinnati. But qualifying sees Levi Wilbur shuffle to the top of the board, separated on a different part of the racetrack here at Quaker City. You also have Ethan Bacchino working with Roderick and company. They see second and third. The difference for the top four is only about 66 one-thousandths of a second on the markers at the moment. A 1:14.702 is the best for Wilbur so far. With under a minute and a half to go in the session, remember these drivers already turned 3 laps up on the board today. If you want to be a part of the conversation today, by the way, here in Salem, Ohio, be sure to say hello while watching along the broadcast today in the comment sections. Say whatever you may need to say. Bring along storylines, delight, and then some as we go on throughout the day. Also, don't forget we have socials for Kart Chaser. Be sure to interact with us on Facebook, Instagram, and more. But with under a minute to go, let's find out if there's any changes here up on the board. You can see packs of 2 being worked upon here on this pretty sizable track. If you look at the turns, there's 15 of them here at Quaker City. It's a pretty sizable quarter complex of turns. Ethan Bacchino jumps to the top of the board, 37 one-thousandths over the drafting partner of Roderick. Roderick, the team boss for RRD, putting up some stellar speed in the session. We finish up the group here in just the next moments or so. A little bit of battling as some of the machines look to swap around. This is one of the more technical parts, you can argue, with this part of the racetrack. Because once you get to 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way up to 14, you can argue, it's turn after turn of overlap. See them working, for example, up through 11, up towards 12 and 13. One of the harder braking zones coming up the inside. That will set things up by the time you get to another bulb-like turn for 14 before one of the longer straightaway sections. You'll pick up on some drafts, 6 to 7 and 14 to 15. Those 2 major areas where you'll have some significant straight line ability potentially here today on top of those hard braking zones. Checker flag on the session. Kino not able to improve on the final time around, but it's enough to get the pole. The 427 at the top of the board. AJ Roderick in second. J. Brian Williams, Levi Wilbur amongst the top 4. Ryan Curtin down in 5th. Christopher Ashcraft down near 8/10 in 6th. Tim Connell followed by Kane Cullen, along with Elliot Bocchino. The top 10, there was one other driver, and Gary Pacheco, who is here today, a part of your field. Decent separation between the pack itself, but pretty close amongst the top 5. That should be the expectation for competitors as you watch along with today's racing action. It should be pretty tight for some of the classes over the course of this weekend. A few minutes from now, we'll see the micros hit the racetrack, and they've had some good championship conversations as well. Looking at things, we'll touch upon that in a moment. But of course, this facility, see everyone stay loose and try and keep relaxed here. This track is actually near the Pennsylvania border. Quaker City Motorsports Park is considered one of the top destinations for racing, after all, in the state of Ohio, with long history with drag racing, with an 1/8 and 1/4 mile drag strip here at the facility, on top of having the karting facilities that have hosted national events over the years. It's also been a lot of talking points, to say the very least, here at this facility. Keep in mind, a lot of these drivers, since the closure of pit race, have seen the races making this their home track and part of the region when it comes to karting action. In fact, you have things like the Quaker City Karting Series that happens as well for the grassroots, for the local side that's got a pretty significant scene also. But today, Apex is here at said facility and looking to see where things stand by the end of this weekend. The drivers are now on the racetrack. Let's talk micro. James Fox, so far, has been very dominant, but still has a pretty tight points battle to deal with. Top Kart USA driver has won all but one of the possible races so far. Right now, Fox will be looking to keep that up again today. 780 points out of a possible 800 scored. Right now, all you can say is drop is going to make this pretty difficult for Remy Boss, let's put it that way. The Boss Pro Karting machine close up on the point spreadsheet. Last year, of course, Stars ran here for the first time and ran the reverse layout when they did come here. This track has attracted national attention as a result of everything in the past time here. So, this facility continuing to add more and more attention here for its racing activities as the first of the drivers for the micro now ready to score some times. Looking at some of the various details you could talk about when it comes to the micro drivers here today. These Briggs micros going to try and put together a show. We mentioned with Fox going to be one of the expected drivers for the point standings at least today. However, it's important to mention with him basically in the lock, it's going to be interesting if we see him take times. The 2:15, that is not him. That is Miles Hale, who is his teammate. Fox yet to record a time up on the board here today to start things off for this session. To make things all the more interesting, depending on what happens here, especially since looking towards the course of the weekend, they've obviously kept busy with the practice sessions. Fox and Boss didn't even take part in the final warm-up session for this qualifying effort. On some of the drivers here is Kuiper Nelson. You have Ava Hamill on the track. You have Wyatt Burlsman. Toby Blue is in the field for Twin Turbo Racing along with Rhett Blue. You have Clyde Clement. You also have Harrison Fitcher and Wyatt Nelson. So again, your top two in points are not on the track for the qualifying session, interestingly enough, that were a part of the entry list. Nelson starts off qualifying. That is an Aero Roderick Racing Development entry. Top of the board by a 1.5 seconds on the warm-up on the tires. Looking at some of the socials when it comes to the team side, keep in mind, some of the team drivers actually for RRD did come over to this facility and race part of the club scene during a rainy situation. They had to deal with some of the weather recently in the approach to Apex, got some drivers up on podium positions, a part of some of the racing, a part of a double-header that took place at this facility. Well, Wilkie was a part of those that took part in some of the senior action. Roderick actually went up 9 positions a part of that. Some of the notables we've seen are Kart Chaser. So, a few of the drivers definitely making sure they got the seat time to know what they need to do to get this complex sorted. Nelson staying up at the top of the board seems to be going to be difficult to beat in this qualifying session. Keep in mind, looking at some of the history, has raced, of course, in Apex Midwest competition, was second in the micro class last time out in the series. Usually races as well in our divisions in the northern regions, as well as some club races in the KRA. Takes place over in Newcastle here and there. Keeps himself busy on the schedule, to say the very least, when it comes to the classifications. And today, seems to have the setup dialed on in to still hold 8/10 the gap, nearly, here in the qualifying. As you can tell, with 2 minutes to work with on the racetrack, separations between the packs is pretty significant early on in the day here. Now, of course, Apex has been busy, whether it's been in the South or whether it's been here in the Midwest. Of course, has Texas coming up in the future, as we talked about in the past, or some would have. Newcastle, and G&J Kartway have been the tracks that we visited over the course of the schedule for the Midwest, the Southeast. Visited tracks like NOLA, like North Florida Kart Club, in Atlanta Motorsport Park. A lot of tracks that get some attention and definitely some unique facilities in the lead up to that Apex Karting Championships final over at Trackhouse in late October this year in Mooresville, North Carolina. Remember, a lot of these drivers, if they want the chance to compete at that national event in the big showcase for Apex competition, you have to race in at least 2 of the regional events to then get that invitation. We'll see over the course of today, some of these drivers make sure to get some momentum heading into that finale. One of the drivers that may need a pickup, keep in mind, 3rd in the points, Clyde Clayman, down in the order, 5th right now, needs to pick up the 293, for example. One of those down the order, didn't get a pickup this time. As you see Hale working with the 255 of Hamill. Right now, these two, now within half a second of Nelson's pace that's been dominant up at the front. But it's important to mention the reasoning here too is this track does seem to feel, at least from what we're seeing here, critical to make sure you at least get the right balance on the grip level, but also the gearing ratio because of how you need the top end for the big parts, but you also need to be so good in the more technical sections that take up your more than half the lap, where you also have to make sure to be careful with the curves, which if you look at the curbs, they do have some height to them with the bit of the concrete that you'll see sometimes at a lot of these facilities across this part of the region, with the wear and tear that can pick up on your karts if you accidentally hit them. Obviously, a lot of the micros going to avoid those curbs today, make sure they don't damage their karts. But the qualifying is already coming to a close. The times outside of Nelson have already hit their peak after what we're getting to be 5 laps over the course of 7 minutes for qualifying efforts. Nelson, Hamill, Miles Hale really should say in the top 3. Burlsman holding on to the top 4. And Clayman in the 5th position. Toby Blue in 6th. Wyatt Nelson in 7th. Rhett Blue stays down the order in 8th. Fitcher down in 9th. But your top 2 in points not on the track so far, today at least. Is that a sign for the championship? We'll see. We'll take a step aside for a moment. We come back. Qualifying continues. You're watching Kart Chaser.
Macro Motorsports builds champions every day. Drivers who won on the world stage. The Tilton T4 Series is pure spec racing. Same engine, same chassis. When you win, it's because you were the best that day. Your edge is not the kart. It's the setup, the strategy, and the race team. With our Arrive and Drive program, you simply bring your gear, we provide the equipment and the championship-winning support to every event. Stop wrenching, start racing. Your path to the T4 Nations Cup in Spain starts with us. For more information, contact us at macromotorsports.net.
looking to take the next step in your racing journey? Well, look no further than PitFit.
With 2 locations in Charlotte, North Carolina and Indianapolis, Indiana, PitFit trains drivers all the way from grassroots level karting to IndyCar and NASCAR, with top-of-the-line personalized coaching to improve physical and cognitive fitness.
For more information on programs, check out PitFit on Instagram or Facebook today.
Gee, looks like we're missing the engine. What the hell am I supposed to tag?
What do you mean? It's my Greyhound. It's all I need.
Where's the rest of it?
It doesn't matter. It's a Greyhound.
You gotta make way. Okay, you're good.
I'm sitting by here with Kyle, our race winner. Tell me how you did it. You were blazing fast out there, and I mean, you don't even have a go-kart, man. Tell me about it.
Yeah, you know, Norberg, Schmorberg, the Greyhound-powered Greyhound was great today. You know, it makes the difference. And the team's been working really hard back at the shop, and, you know, just shout out Greyhound.
Thank you, Kyle.
How the f did you just win?
Doesn't matter. It's a Greyhound.
Hey guys, another Kart Chaser driver fitness episode with me, Chris G. And today we're doing some upper back movements. Here we go. Exercise number 1 today we're doing is the reverse grip lat pull down. This exercise movement is one of my favorites because it works your grip strength, your biceps, and most importantly, works that lat area that also protects those ribs in the seat. Exercise number 2 today, the dumbbell chest supported row. Don't forget, good stretch at the bottom, and bring them right to your hips like that, keeping your back nice and arched, shoulders back. Think about having good posture in the cart. Exercise number 3, the inverted Smith machine rows. Grip strength, back strength, overall amazing workout. Thanks again for joining me on another Kart Chaser driver fitness episode with me, Chris G. Race ready training that carries into real life.
Are you stuck with your...
Welcome back to the racetrack. It's time for our biggest class of the entire weekend. 40 karts registered for Briggs Senior for this weekend, which means it's going to be a jam-packed racetrack. There is a lot of good names on the entry list. Just scanning through, you have Henry Wheeler, you have Mark Steele, you have Mick Gabriel, you have Sam Tutwater, obviously a part of that since he's been the most consistent in this series for this campaign. And so many others that are all scattered in a part of the list. Will Wilkie, we mentioned that name with some track experience in the past week. He is here. You have Ryan Curl. He's another one of those. There are a lot of Project Racing Development drivers, by the way, here today. No, we talked a lot about that team, but they brought a lot. Same for the James Overbeck Academy drivers, bringing a few names that look to develop, like Ryder Nesbitt, like Aiden Schumacher. Carson Benjamin's on a Steel Motorsports entry. You have Clay O'Brien with a couple different members of their group. New Gen bringing Colton Kelly. And so many others scattered a part of that list. As we get ready for the qualifying session to get into full swing here, taking a look at some of the various details, mind you, over the course of the warm-up session. Remember, they did get the chance to make sure their karts were up to speed. Mark Steele did put up the fastest time in the warm-up session. That was a 1:12.8, 3:6. Henry Wheeler, Layden Mull were in the top 3. Those are your benchmarks to watch for. One thing a couple drivers actually confirmed with Christian Marsh just before the start of our qualifying sessions. You see how they're pushing here. There is confirmation that officials gave. The word was absolutely on the question, can bump drafting happen in 206s? Yes, indeed. We're seeing that come into play with some of these drivers taking that and saying, I'm going to use that to help my teammate in what has become tandem drafting, like the 2009 Daytona Talladega Super Speedway package. Was that 2011? That was a long time ago, to say the very least. Regardless, it is helping with some of the drivers here early on the board, but Henry Wheeler and Sam Tutwiler are the ones up at the top. Wheeler is in a Rocket Tech Motorsports entry here this weekend, by the way, in the 901 kart. See these two working their way through, though. Let's see if there's any shuffle on the board. Yes, there is. Wilkie's to the top of the board. Curl with him. Will Wilkie in the Coyote Zenith machine able to charge up, and that is one of your drivers that has ran not just in Apex Midwest, but some club race in Newcastle, was solid in some other series national events in recent weeks with top 10 finishes. But right now, there's a look at Wheeler's pack. It's got a bit more heft to it in terms of the numbers. You also have some of the other drivers in that pack, like Mark Steele, the boss man for him, trying to assist. Throw in the mix also Sam Tutwiler, the points leader, coming into today. Now Tutwiler may very well have this one on lock because his worst finish was a 10th in a pre-final. But depending on what happens today, the drop may make it very difficult to close. It's not a mathematical full lock because anything can happen today, but Henry Wheeler has 616 points without a drop factored in. Tutwiler has 739. Also of note, Emily DeMaster had been top 3 in the point standings before this weekend. DeMaster, the 987 card. However, that machine is currently having a quiet session to begin things off here for today. Was on the entry list. Coming up to the final 90 seconds up on the board here. Curl staying up at the top of it. The RRD, as it seems to be the Roderick line versus the Steele line today in the Briggs. Take a look at the other side of the racetrack, taking a chance to see the 993 leading this group. That is one of the gold cards. That is Jürgen Siller should say. They trying to find a way to lead that respective pack. Those drivers are at the back of the order in the 115s. The top of it is still in the 112s. This time through, Wilkie only getting back to third. Curl, if anything, getting a bit of assistance, but only has a 5/1000ths advantage over Tutwiler. Will there be a change in the final laps? Tutwiler did improve the last time they crossed the scoring loops. Curl already on lap 4. The others still haven't crossed, and there was no improvement, we can tell you, at the other side of the racetrack. So the half a track difference will still see everybody finish up their laps this time by. The gap's too big to the racetrack to record the checker flag after they take an extra lap here for Curl and Wilkie. But right now it's pretty clear. As there's the let by, there's going to have to be a hope that you'll see a rare improvement for a 5th and final time around if you want to try and get the pole today in some of these cases. Checker flag already waving on the racetrack. First drivers will come across the line down to the start and finish straight. Curl, Wilkie stay in their spots. Yeah, Brady Eckhoff moving around. Emily DeMaster did hit the racetrack down at 12 is where DeMaster is in qualifying. But as you see everyone else streak their way on by, watch for some of the big names coming up down in the order. Nolan Holiday bumped down to the bottom of it, but Sam Tutwiler bumps to the top of it. 13/1000ths does get the improvement in the final time around over Mark Steele. Henry Wheeler comes up in the top 3 as a result as well. So a change up at the top with Tutwiler keeping up the speed that's been consistent all campaign. Some of the notables down the order: Leighton Mole down in 12th for the last shuffle. Addison Ianello down in 15th. You also have Strupko, also part of the field. James has raced every winner, it feels like, here at Kart Chaser this year. 17th. It's where they're running. Losing in Laser, an ever familiar name for multiple different series, down in 25th. Wyatt Cataldo, also an R1 in 28th. There's so many different names that have popped up here in 33 that took part on the racetrack for the qualifying. Remember, there was 40 on the provisional entry list coming into this weekend. But qualifying is zipping its way through. We have 2 more classes to go. The minis have a few more minutes before they get rolling for their respective session. Now, talking about the mini conversation, Anderson Hemphill has been the one with the most momentum in the past few weeks, it feels like. Especially since the final for round number 1, it's been win, 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 win. 5 straight wins for the MGM chassis. Hemphill has been mightily fast and could be in a good spot, depending on drops, entering this final round with Logan Pollock, his nearest opponent, with 665 points to Hemphill's 768 scored on the season. You also have to give a shout out to the top 3 featuring Caden Druno, who was trying to impress one of the privateers in the 253 points scored on the season for your Briggs Minis. They're getting the clearance to go. Here we go. Off and away we go for their qualifying session. The youngsters continue to build some track experience. Now, taking a glance over what happened in the sessions previous, in the warm-up specifically, it was actually Bo Laser that led it. 12 cars took part in the warm-up session. Kart, should say. Pollock was down the order in 9th for reference, though. So there were a few different shuffles, if you will, when it came to this group. It's also important to mention, too, we talk a lot about, okay, points, and more points. But it's also going to be critical. Those drivers going to be here, depending on their focuses. Remember, Hemphill, in his case, you look at the entry list and see, is there a Kart 124? No, there is not. So he'll have to 100% lean on the drop here today and take a 0 for that drop, which could get interesting on if Logan Pollock will be able to get a decent point tally picked up to outweigh his prospective drop. Best finisher is a 3rd coming into today. In any of the races, you see Pollock is a part of those leading the pack right here. Start off the session, Pollock. Let's try and build up some momentum. One of the drivers that has raced now at 40 events. He is a driver who's also been a local to Quaker City in terms of its racing championships. Look at some of the logs, has some experience as recently as the 19th of July racing the title, has picked up wins here a couple times at the Club C. He's also competed in the Ohio Valley's Karting Association races. So does have a fair bit of experience with some of these tracks that have been on this schedule that have definitely helped him a part of the Midwest schedule. Laser's going to be, again, an interesting kart to keep an eye on here. Bo, part of the team registration with AEM Racing this weekend. Usually races over at K1 Circuit Whiteland and at Newcastle in the club races. A fixture there. Didn't get any points, obviously, in the second round of the season with the appearances. Only took part in the first, that one being at Newcastle. So venturing out to different places, but is not one of your first drivers on the board right now. It's Aiden Harbaugh who is up at the top right now. Privateer looking to make a name for himself here today. That is another one of the drivers that I've seen too much of this year and is a local when it comes to the racing style. Did get some experience down in Florida attempting to run in some T4 Eastern Cup action at one point, but mainly has stuck to here, to Cincinnati a bit for a couple races, as well as Music City for a couple starts. You see the spins, meanwhile, off the racetrack goes one machine, and absolute furiousness. That is the 108 that has gone off. Your top of the board driver is off the circuit Bo Laser takes the top spot for now. So Harbaugh stuck in the grass while Laser shoots to the top in the 114 threes. To see a couple of the other drivers as they continue to battle their way in the session, which can cost you some time, to say the very least. Ruben Greer. Another name we see a lot with new-gen karting equipment. Getting some speed here today. Raced in the first round, was a podium finisher. You're an Apex Midwest competition. Also competed actually down in the Southeast races a couple times. When he raced down there, was a top contender there also in Briggs Mini and the overall Mini. However, did have a 5-second penalty that pushed him back in that Southeast Round 2 event a while ago. Under 2 minutes to work with. Let's see what happens this time. It's Theo Stevens up at the top of the board. New driver appears to the top. One of the comp cards shooting to the top of the order. One of the drivers who races not just in the Apex Midwest a bit, now with the second appearance this year, but also usually runs club racing over at Trackhouse. Right now that 174 seems to be getting a good whiff of double toe. That seems to be helping a lot to keep that 1/10 advantage. They are not working together at all at the front of the field, by the way. Laser passing Pollock. Got to be careful about these types of fights. Look at this again. Pollock tried to go to the outside, but nothing doing. Trying to really work around through 12 and 13 that time as they work their way towards 14. One more lap for most of this field this time by. An ultimate qualifying group of the morning. As the 174 doesn't improve, no one improved that time by. Maybe Calvin Skolbach, yes indeed, will indeed improve. Down to 6th. Into 6th for the 152 in the order. You see the hand signals. Pollock's just saying, give me a push. I'd like to get the pole, please. Needs to be able to at least get some track position to start things off for the heat races today. Keep in mind, those heat races going to be pretty important in regards to the conversation for the championship and the points. The heat points, remember, determine your starting position for the pre-final. This qualifying decides your positioning for where you'll start for both of those heat races. Checker flag on session. They are still not working nice at the front of the pack. Laser, again, a part of the shuffle. See right now Greer trying to battle actually a bit here. Laser pushed up the track. No change as a result of all that fighting. Nobody wanted to work together, it felt like, for a bit there. The best working together pack may have been the 6th, 7th, and 8th drivers on your qualifying. And as you can see, a little bit of something is on the racetrack. That looks pretty hefty, doesn't it? Say the very least, I think someone or something is going to have to get looked at there. That is a DPC machine that is on the racetrack after this qualifying session. So 174, 181, and 113, all within a 10th of a half of each other. It's at the top 3 positions. You also have Harbaugh that's down to the 5th position. Greer in the 4th position. Skolbach down the order at 6th. Penteco, Goddard, you have Leash and Alec down in the top 10. The 123 hearing because of issues did get a mechanical flag, wondering if that's a part of that machine. in that circumstance this time through. We'll find out just how things will shuffle as a result of everything here. Of course, the 123, the DPC machine we're talking about, of Ilek having that part with the side pod a part of that cart. We have one more qualifying group to go, though. Most importantly is the juniors that are on the racetrack in the next minute or so. In fact, scheduled to hit the racetrack about now. Just waiting for the final checks before they get rolling for their respective pack. Here they go. AJ Stoner has put up a really good effort in the championship after starting 18th with Heat 1 in the championship. Finished no worse than 9th in any other race since then. Picked up a win in the final in round 2 at G&J. William Richard and Jacob Scheibel are also in the conversation. They're all separated by less than 60 points. It's going to come down to the drop simply enough between those drivers, because each of them have had at least 1 or 2 finishes 10th or worse in at least a heat, pre-final, or a final. Comes the question, who's going to start off with the qualifying effort to see them at the top of the board here? Warm-ups. Christopher Yutze was the quickest, remember, though. He's 4th in points. And you can see a stall for the 882 trying to get rolling. Bit of a slow up that time, that featuring Jonathan Bohr. He's one of the steel entries today. Everyone's trying to figure out where they want to be in the packs here. Obviously, front of the field. Look at how much draft is getting picked up here, though. That's Will Kritz closing up a fair bit to the back of Richard to start off this group. You have a lot of good names actually mixed into this junior field for today, because the junior field did get registration of 28. But some of the drivers of note. Tegan Snyder's a part of the order. They're driving a steel entry here tonight. Gavin Dyer, Daniel Dragunov. That's going to be a driver to, I think, watch for, depending on speed. The championship contenders we talked about. Cooper Moll's also in this field. Henry Maskell. So many others. Jet Price you can throw in the mix too. Some of the just the different names that have popped up here. Dragunov referenced 7 of the points, part of some of that listing. For example, Price down at 6. You also have Snyder down at 8th. That being said, let's really see where the times fly. See if there's any issues with any side pods this time, anything involving carts with spins. Let's find out. Evan Frey actually the quickest in the opening group. Started off with the 1:14.7s, but the second group was a little quicker by 2/10. Looks like they'll change the lead carts a little bit, as that will see a shuffle. Also to the top, Scheibel, who is well down the order in the qualifying queue. A part of those that are going to work from the back. A little bit of a disadvantage, I guess, in timing. But if your group works, it works. See just how this grouping of carts, a lot of these trains, unlike a lot of these classes, are actually 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 carts deep a little bit. A lot more train connected, if you will. They try and use the bump traps to their advantage. The steel machines seem to be using that a lot per allowed with the Briggs. See some of the others also trying to stay in the draft of this pack. That includes Jet Price, one of the EOS chassis in the order. And the club scene raced in Trackhouse as well. Scheibel still at the top of the board, but Jet Price was up there. Now it's J.J. O'Neill at the top. That's going to change a lot. It's almost like drivers going back and forth on their speeds, going up and down the order like on the drag strip that's around this facility. It's hosted plenty of drag racing, including itself at a quarter-mile distance. 5,000 seats for that drag strip you see just over the straightaway towards 6 and 7. It's hosted some major events in series that are in interesting situations, we'll just say that. But hey, it's been a track that's been well admired for so long in racing lore. (1957) is actually when Quaker City started hosting racing with the drag racing side of the facility. Originally became one of the main fixtures here in Northeast Ohio. Dragunov, top of the board in the final 2 minutes, by the way. Tied with Hayden Lawson. There's O'Neill having, I guess you can call, a multi draft. All those drivers are connected with some additional draft effect, you'd have to think, off the next three. Seems as though Dragunov, Lawson, and O'Neill have worked here pretty well, but the problem is they're now bumper to bumper with the other pack. Is that going to slow them up in their penultimate laps here at Quaker City? Final minute on the session here in Quaker City. What is a newer part of this facility? 1 mile, remember, is the distance of this racetrack. It's one of the bigger tracks we've seen for this regional/national slate in recent years here on Kart Chaser. You think of the mileage. But as you can see, some of the drivers are definitely being tested. Off the racetrack and onto the track goes the 829. We'll see them get fired back up the next moments or so. Of course, that being Gage Clevenger, one of the drivers with the Bennett chassis per the entry list. A Lawson stayed at the top of the board, by the way, as that happened by 2 1,000ths over Dragunov. Gavin Dyer is up there, Tegan Snyder. J.J. O'Neill got shuffled with Jet Price going up to third. Checker flag waving. The entire group that had been working so well together has been discombobulated. Your championship front runners and warm-up front runners are in around 10th, 11th, 14th-ish range. Bit of an interesting dynamic today, to say the very least. And of course, that's not even considering the 87. Haven't really seen too much of them pop up at the top.
Your circuit or the driver coaching aspect with mindset, racecraft, and driving techniques. If you want to take your karting to the next level, visit us at kartclass.com.
Kyle, what are you doing?
It's got my new Greyhound seat.
You don't even have a cart.
Doesn't matter. I have a Greyhound.
Is Kyle Cuthbertson doesn't even have a go-kart.
Doesn't matter.
Cuthbertson through on Turney. Turney in the dirt.
From the garage to the grid, Acceleration Kart Racing is your one-stop shop for karting. Engines, parts, safety gear, tools, and more from the brands you trust. Everything you need for race day starts at shopakr.com. ready to get behind the wheel? From Formula One to NASCAR and IndyCar, all the pros start here. For more information, check us out online at mcckarting.com or call us and go racing today.
It's time for karts to hit the racetrack. Welcome, everyone. More to Kart Chasers coverage here this morning as Apex Racing continues on to the heat action. We're starting things off today with the Masters. Remember, 7 minutes plus 2 laps is your distance for the races today. We'll see that different tomorrow, obviously, part of the Sunday slate. But right now, the entire field getting itself in position to fight. After some intense qualifying sessions earlier today, we'll find out how things go in a moment. As you can see, Ethan Bocchino going to be one of the drivers to keep an eye on here. Set the fastest time of the qualifying session with a 1:14.336. AJ Roderick in second. J. Brian Williams and Levi Wilbur had qualified amongst your top 4. Ryan Curtin and Christopher Ashcraft were a part of your top 5, a part of the order earlier today. Also in the order, you'll keep an eye on Tim Cottle, Eric King, Michael Gollin. You also have Elliot Bocchino and Gary Machiko, a part of this order here today. Just about all in position and ready to go for heat racing action to start things off here at Kart Chaser in Quaker City. We're happy to have you with us today as we're all set for heat number 1 of the weekend. To the start box, they roll. They rumble their way to the opening corners. Off to a quick start at the front of the field in the battle up front between Bocchino and Roderick. Few others shuffle. That includes drivers like Kane, who got a good hole shot. Keep in mind, you've seen with that start zone, it takes you directly into turn 1. The time of the blue cone, some sense of the inside. How about a 2-for-1 special? Immediately, Kano gets put back down to second. The fight now features 4 different karts in the mix, all with a rocket of a start for drivers like Wilbur. See the pushing on already up at the front of the field as they try and make it back to a 3-kart pack up through 12 and 13. That far side of the racetrack going to set things up for that long straightaway up to 15. A lot of these drivers able to keep your full throttle so far, it looks today. On that run up from 15th to the 90-degree corner, the setup maybe for 1. That's setting up for good battle for the 4th position. Ashcraft versus Curtin sees a swap back and forth with Wilbur leading the opening lap. That burns the first 90 seconds or so off the board with the racing and some contact off the racetrack. Ashcraft getting a little bit archy-barchy with Curtin. And there goes the 437. Curtin sent wide as the leaders continue to fight up through the best passing section it feels today, turn 7. Ethan is now up at the front yet again. They look to keep this going amongst your Briggs Masters today. Ethan, one of those that runs normally in Ohio Valley karting competition on top of competing in Apex Midwest this year. He's mainly focused on racing over at G&J Kartway specifically that's hosted a lot of those points races. Today, doing well to say the least here at this facility. This is, in the past 2 years, just the 3rd different racetrack he's appeared in per Carter DB. If you go by those statistics, not including any other tracks that may have popped up with over the course of the schedule. Kart DB, of course, adding a lot of details for drivers as far back as 2004. That was when he raced something called Kart Racers of America Series. That's how deep the history goes that we're referencing among the statistics these drivers have coming into this weekend. Ethan Bocchino, though, still keeping things pretty steady up front. No major sends up in the midst of the pack. Roderick, the team boss for Roderick Racing Development, keeping on the doorstep, though, with Wilbur in the mix, too. see, though, just how difficult it is to keep wheel to wheel. It feels like once you get to that technical part, 8, 9, 10, 11 is where we've seen so many drivers lose a lot of momentum, it feels like. Lost opportunities, lost momentum, lost chances to be able to keep up with your fellow competitors if you aren't able to work in the midst of the air in that traffic. One of the major things to keep in mind for the weather conditions, it is overcast here today. We haven't talked about that too much today. Salem, Ohio, 64 degrees Fahrenheit currently. One of the main talking points we haven't touched upon yet for the weather systems in the area, chances of rain potentially by the late afternoon sessions. Wilbur sends it on 2 different karts again. Wilbur's pass doesn't work out fully, though. Yet again, the run comes back and up to the front. Roderick taking the lead. AJ's been a very good driver in the course of this series so far, and he's keeping up the speed here. Looking to try and pick up a title to add to the trophy case. And right now, it seems as though no lead is too safe with the way this battling has gone on today so far, a part of these Masters. Under 2 minutes to go. Of note, Ashcraft falling down to 4th, 5th position. J. Brian Williams passed on by in the other pack. Those drivers are about more than a second behind the lead group. Connell also driving up a couple spots, is up in 6th. Your biggest mover of the race, well, it's only a +2, are both the Bacchinos that have gone up a couple spots at times. Elliott Bacchino specifically up 2 in the mix. Still see how some of the staggering's going on with some of these drivers as far back as 2-3 seconds back. They're having to deal with on the close-up. Here they go, back through Sector 2, they rumble. Again, 12 and 13. Seems to be an area you just need to find a way to handle the near 90-degree corners on the track sketch, if you will, here at this facility. Looking back at how some of the battling can go around here, takes a lot for the setup, to say the very least, to get the passes done here. Right now, Wilbur knows he's got some opportunities to fight. Coming up to 2 laps to go this upcoming time by. 37 seconds were left on the board at the time of the cross. The entire field making a good effort to try and find a way to close. Ethan Bacchino has fallen in the clutches of J. Brian Williams, has been passed for 3rd. Williams is off the track, though. He dropped the left side tires right at the edge of your frame. That's allowed Bacchino to get the spot back as the top 2 look to make sure it's just them who go for this race win. Still on in our early coverage here today, here on Kart Chaser, as we prepare to see how things go. Remember, working behind the paywall for most of the day. Be sure to sign up to KC Premium here for the course of the weekend to be able to keep an eye on the racing action as we continue on with said racing action here from Quaker City to determine who wins some Apex Karting Championship trophies, part of its Midwest title. Clock already at 0s. We're at 2 laps to go. Does Wilbur wait until the final time around? No, he won't. He's tried daring moves already a couple times. Wilbur up the inside. Takes the race lead. But does that set up Roderick? Yes, it does. Back through the middle sector. Through 9-10, able to get the pass on back as they go through the sweeping turn 11. Back to the Sens on the inside through 12 and 13 here. 206 Masters continue to fight. They're side by side. Back to the front goes Roderick. Wilbur again, forced to reset. Levi Wilbur needs to pick up a bit more of a pole. It's going to come down to those passes by 7 on the way to 13 possibly. Seen a couple into 1 though on the final time around. Wilbur gets crossed up by Roderick on the Sen. Side by side, the ORD machine goes back to the front. Wilbur with the crossback up through 3 and 4, takes it back. Now Roderick with the inside takes it right back again towards 6. Is that where Wilbur wants him though? Wilbur has the draft. Will he go for a deep lunge? Yes, he will. Levi Wilbur crossed up again. Roderick going on the outside. Up through 8 to 9. Roderick getting the squeeze, gets the clearance on Wilbur. Wilbur pushed back as they make their way to 11, and here comes Bocchino and Ashcraft right back at it too. AJ Roderick might have the distance here. Wilbur needs a massive run. It's taken until past the start and finish line to get the runs today. Wilbur shuffling, looks behind, asks for help, goes defensive, doesn't trust that they'll not go for a set themselves with the run. Well, AJ Roderick gets it done. There was a look for second, but Wilbur got it regardless. Bocchino and Ashcraft in the top 4 with Brian Williams down in the 5th position. J. Brian Williams survives the pressure in his pack. Connell down in 6th. Elliot Bocchino goes up 3 as your biggest mover in the 7th spot. Eric King, Michael Golan, followed by Gary Machiko. And Ryan Curtin ends up off the racetrack, remember, with the contact. Sees him well down the order as a result of that scuffle that happened. That might get it interesting with race control with the 490. Take a quick break. Race 1 in the books. Race 2 for the heats continue. It's the micros up next.
When it comes to innovation on the track, Odenthal Racing Products leads the pack. From the highly popular EasyGP camera mounts to our tough case to GoPro case, racers everywhere